If you see a guy in Tokyo scrubbing a public toilet while wearing a faded 10-year-old sweater, do not pity him. He might literally own the building he's mopping. Meet neighbour A. He drives a polished, used German sedan, wears an expensive Swiss watch, and puts on a tailored designer suit every single morning. He wears recognisable logos, looks like a high earner, and effortlessly turns heads wherever he walks. Now meet neighbour B. Same street, rides a standard utility electric bike, takes the subway during peak hours, and wears a plain dark sweater with no logos. He buys groceries at the local supermarket, and if you passed him, your brain wouldn't register his existence for a single microsecond. If this were Miami, Dubai, or Los Angeles, passers-by would look at neighbour A with pure respect, assuming he's a high flyer at the peak of his career, while writing neighbour B off as an average guy who can't afford a status lifestyle. Plot twist: this is Tokyo. And here, the surface image is completely opposite to reality. Neighbour A is what Japanese society calls mie pari, someone obsessed with external flex. He is drowning in high-interest loans just to maintain that car and suit, eats cheap instant ramen in a 12 square meter rental room, and lives paycheck to paycheck just for stranger validation. Neighbour B owns 3 commercial properties debt-free, runs a niche logistics firm, and holds millions in liquid investment funds. He belongs to a demographic researchers call kakure tomo, literally the hidden wealthy. Now, you might ask, if neighbour A walks around in a sharp suit, why do people say Japan hates showing off money? Because in modern Japan, the line between looking presentable and committing a social crime is razor thin. Neighbour A stays right on the line. His suit is tailored and his car is quiet. He shows status but doesn't force it on you. But try a different experiment. Walk into a Tokyo neighborhood izakaya, not in a neat suit, but in a blinding gold tracksuit, flexing an iced out watch with an aggressive "I own this place" attitude. You won't get admiring nods, you'll get dead silence, subtle eye rolls, and patrons quietly sliding their stools 2 feet away from you. You didn't just showcase purchasing power, you violated a foundational rule, mehi wa ku, the strict social taboo against creating friction, noise, or forcing others into your personal performance. By aggressively broadcasting wealth, you break the room's wa, collective social balance. You force everyone into an uninvited status war. In Western economics, status is additive. Buy something flashy to stack status points onto your public profile. In Japan, status is subtractive. Flamboyant displays subtract points from your character, flagging you as untrustworthy or socially tone-deaf. As the famous proverb warns, deru kugi wa utareru. The nail that sticks out gets hammered down. Discretion isn't shame, it's a calculated strategy to avoid social friction. To understand where this instinct comes from, rewind 400 years into Japanese history. During the Tokugawa shogunate, society was enforced under a strict 4-tier legal caste system called Shi no Kosho. At the top were samurai warriors. At the absolute bottom were merchants, or chonin. As trade boomed in Osaka and Edo, a bizarre crisis unfolded. Bottom caste merchants got insanely rich, while ruling samurai went broke. Terrified that merchants would buy political power, the shogunate weaponized strict laws called kan-ehi sumptuary edicts. These were harsh laws dictating what each class could wear, eat, build, or buy. If a merchant built a house that looked too grand or wore silk, the government seized their property or exiled them. Merchants faced a choice: adapt their aesthetic or lose everything to state seizure. Their solution was a subtle cultural rebellion called Uraki, the culture of hidden luxury. On the outside, they wore dark, coarse cotton kimonos to satisfy government inspectors, but the inside lining was made of hand-woven painted silk, invisible to guards, revealed only in secret to fellow connoisseurs. They hid elaborate rock gardens behind plain wooden walls, buying ceramic tea bowls that cost as much as entire homes. This gave birth to Iki, the philosophy that true luxury is understated, meant exclusively for those who possess the cultural cheat codes to decode it. The historical lesson was clear: public display invites destruction, hidden wealth ensures survival. Fast forward to post-World War II Japan. The nation rebuilt its economy around group cohesion and corporate solidarity. Founders of massive global empires like Konosuke Matsushita of Panasonic deliberately lived in modest homes and commuted without flashy retinues. To display personal luxury while asking employees to work 80-hour weeks for collective growth was seen as terrible leadership. This historical foundation created modern Japanese behavioral economics. In the 1800s, economist Thorstein Veblen coined the term conspicuous consumption, buying expensive things publicly to signal rank. What modern sociologists see in Japan today is the exact opposite: inconspicuous consumption. According to the Nomura Research Institute, high net worth households don't stop spending, they redirect capital into non-visible assets. Instead of buying branded supercars that depreciate and trigger tax audits, capital flows into quiet avenues. First, high-tier private education and multi-generational skill acquisition. Sociologist Pierre Bourdieu called this cultural capital. Second, bespoke craftsmanship. A master-forged kitchen knife looks like ordinary hardware to an outsider, but signals refinement to an insider. Third, discreet access. Tokyo's most elite culinary spots don't have signboards or websites. They operate out of unmarked residential doors accessible only by personal referral. Fourth, real financial resilience. Having liquid cash reserves, zero personal debt, and equity in income-generating real estate that provides total autonomy. Yet, modern Japan is experiencing a fascinating generational rift in this playbook. A new wave of young tech founders and day traders raised on social media is challenging stealth wealth. While older wealth remains dedicated to discretion, a subset of younger high earners is openly purchasing sports cars and high-end street fashion. They argue visible success inspires entrepreneurship in a country that suffered 3 decades of economic stagnation. Yet, this modern shift faces immense cultural drag. High public flexing frequently triggers intense internet backlash. EHNG-JOT, tax agency scrutiny, and social isolation. In the broader social framework, money isn't viewed as purely individual property. It's tied to obligations to your community and social ecosystem. What's the ultimate takeaway from how Japan treats wealth? It forces us to question our assumptions about status. In Western consumer societies, we're conditioned to believe that if you don't broadcast success, it doesn't count. We confuse spending with wealth and attention with respect. Japanese stealth wealth teaches a different truth. Real financial power isn't about winning validation from strangers on the street or likes on a social app. True wealth is quiet. It's the freedom to control your time, protect your family, and live without needing anyone's permission or applause. The loudest status flex of all might just be having absolutely nothing to prove. If you value stealth over noise, consider subscribing to the channel, quietly of course.
Oh, and fun fact, I lost a tooth a couple of days ago. So tell me, does this officially make me a secret Tokyo millionaire or what? Drop your thoughts in the comments.